Hey everybody, happy Talkie Tuesday. Welcome to my messy home studio. Welcome to this channel. My name is Dori Patrick. I'm a mixed media artist and maker. I live and work in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I try to check in once a week to share little bits of my creative life. So, hey, thanks for being here. How are y'all doing? I think I've been hearing that in some places, at least in of our country, we are getting some snow. I'm in Iowa, of course. We have had snow by now. We do not have snow yet, but the temperatures have dropped like crazy. It got cold fast, and we had some wind and rain blow in over the weekend, which took a lot of the leaves off the trees. Um, we've been just enjoying gorgeous fall colors, oranges, reds, and yellows, and now the leaves are blowing all over the place, and it'll be time to clean them up. But anyway, I hope that this video finds you well. I hope you are staying healthy and having fun. And I am checking in today. Let's see what has happened besides the fact that it got really cold. I have, which is actually kind of good for me because it kind of gets me um, focused on being inside and working, getting my work done. When it's cold out, I tend to get more work done than when it's nice outside. So I have been working on getting things ready for the Prairie Woods Holiday Bazaar, which is coming up. I think it's Saturday, November 22nd. I'm gonna pop the info in the show notes. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. So whatever date that is. So I'm working on lots of little things. It's a fun little show for me to do because I can really play around with little crafty things. And I love that. I love that just as much as I love um, putting together a gallery show full of paintings. It's really fun to just play with all the things. So I've been doing let's see, what have I made so far? I made the little garlands that you saw last week out of the big girl panties. I've got those done. I got some little Christmas trees done, teeny tiny, like 4-inch Christmas trees. Um, and I've been doing some ornaments. I was going to show these to you. So these are I've kind of been on a kick of using up my supplies. That's kind of what the name of the game is here. And so I've been just digging through my supplies and figuring out what I can use, what I can use up. Um I'm really trying to use up and not buy more stuff. But one of the things I had um plenty of are these paper mache. They're a paper mache kind of a flat ornament. This is, I don't know, maybe, excuse me, 3 or 4 inches across. And hopefully you can see that. That's one. And there's the other side. So I kind of do like this graffiti painting all over it. And then I create a light spot where I can write different little messages. And I just write that on with pencil. And then I sealed these all with a satin varnish. This is my favorite one. I might have to keep that one. I really love it. So I just put all these little messages on them. I love Christmas decorations. I love that stuff. I do some things that are very specific for Christmas, but I love the idea of an ornament that you could hang on your tree, but then you would also just like go hang this in your office because it's not necessarily seasonal. It's like not the traditional colors. It's a universal message. I kind of like that idea for my Christmas stuff. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I have a bunch of star shape. The star shape is next. I'm going to do the same thing, put little messages on these. This is kind of how they start off. It's a craft paper mache. You can get these at the craft stores. You can get these probably on Amazon, all sorts of places. I have just had these forever, and I just have made up my mind I'm going to use them up. So I put a little bit of that modeling paste on them because I like them to have a little texture and a little bit of oomph. And the modeling paste gives me that. So I give them a coat of modeling paste, let that dry, give it a light sanding so there are no sharp edges. And then I just start layering with paints. And I almost always start with like black and white because it just gives me a jumping off point. And because these are kind of a graffiti pattern, the black and white is just really fun and easy to play off of. So I will do layers and layers of acrylic paints. Um, what else do I put on these? I do a little bit of scribbling. Um, Neocolor twos. I do like a little bit of that crayon, some marking, and then I love a Posca paint pen. I love adding little details to them, like the little dots that you see on there, and some of the little scribbles. Those are Posca pens. So then I just let them dry really well. I sign the back of each one because they're just, they're a special little thing, and then I seal them. I think I used satin varnish on these. So not too shiny, but enough to just seal it and give it a nice finish. Um, so I'm having a lot of fun doing those. I love making little gifty ornament things. Um oh, and the other thing I was going to show you, my other work in progress is these little guys. I haven't shared these on the socials yet, you guys, because I'm still kind of figuring them out. But these are that's one of them. I have 6 of them total. I won't show you all of them, but I did like different colorways. So this was a wooden peg doll. I had 6 of them. I got them at a thrift store years ago. I've been hanging on to them forever. And I have finally decided I'm going to do something with these. Originally, I had the idea of angels. So, but I think I'm still going with that idea. But for some reason, I got on this sunshine kick with their little heads. So I put the modeling paste all over the body because I love that texture. I don't know how well you can see the texture. You can see it a little. Um, Sanded it down, and then I took paper clay and sculpted the little faces on the fronts. I picked a side and gave them all a little just a very simple, um, raised it up for the nose, gave them little cheeks, and raised it up for the eyebrows. Um, and so that was air dry paper clay that I sculpted over the top. That took a day or two to dry. And then they sat there for a while. I went on to the ornaments and just kept thinking about what to do with them. And I don't know, I felt like they needed to be little sunshine heads. And so that's what I did. So the rays I actually cut out of chipboard. It's kind of like a cardboard, but very, very sturdy. It's kind of like the backing board you get when you like buy a work on paper, like a print or something in the mail, and they use it to add rigidity so it's nice and sturdy. That's what this is made out of. So and it took me some doing. I had to kind of I cut a shape and put it on the head and just kind of had to alter it a little bit. And then each one was just a little different. So it couldn't really use the same template, but pretty close. So I sketched these out, cut them out. I used modeling paste to glue it to the head and to give texture to the rays. You can see the rays have some texture. And then I just went ahead and put modeling paste on the back of her little head too, so it just kind of looked like it was supposed to be there. Um, and then I let them dry and I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if this is gonna hold, but this is holding. It's holding really, really well. I'm really excited. I had a feeling it would because that model, I used the Liquitex modeling paste and it's mamma jamma. There was something in the house I actually repaired with it. I think I had like a little piece of plaster on the wall that had chipped or something, and I filled it in with this stuff, and it has held. So I was really tickled that this worked out. And so this is all I've gotten done with them so far. I think they're still going to be angels. Um I just haven't figured out all the other stuff with them. So they're all going to be, like my friend Gay says, same, but different. So they all have the sun head, and then I think they're going to have wings, which I'm figuring out what I want to make those out of. I think painted canvas. And then I'm figuring out what I want to do with their bodies too. I really feel like they need something around the neck that is, decorative, but yeah. So I'm happy with them so far. Um this has been really fun. It's fun, of course, when things work out, right? Um Believe me, I've tried plenty of things that haven't worked out, but I'm tickled that these are coming along. So I'm hoping to get these done for the bazaar too. I'm really making all kinds of like weird little things for this bazaar, and I'm having a ball. And I hope that the customers have a ball shopping too. They usually do. They usually do. But anyway, so that's what I've been up to. I'm working pretty much all the time now, just trying to get as much as I can done for these holiday shows. And I got a lot of great feedback from you guys from the last week's video. I did a little junk journal session, and these are the two books I worked in. And I thought today we could talk about um, how I make my junk journals. So I got a few questions from a few of you specifically about my journals. What are they made out of? Do I make them? Yes, I do. My junk journals, I always just make myself. And I thought maybe we could switch to overhead and I could show you just briefly kind of how I make my junk journals. Now, I am not a bookbinder. I do not do anything fancy. This is just my version of making a junk journal. Of course, there are many, many, many different ways. But this is my way, and it has really made me very happy. I'm using up scraps. I'm using up old paintings, that like this little guy, this tall skinny one. This is an original little painting that I made on an art retreat. Nothing special, but still kind of cute. So I glued that on the front, but the cover is actually an old abstract painting that I started, and it just wasn't working out, so I didn't finish it. But yeah, so I thought if you are interested, join me at the work table here, and we'll put together a junk journal. I'll just kind of show you my steps. It's super easy. It's nothing fancy, but maybe it will inspire you to use up some of your scraps and get a little journal of your own going. So I will see you over at the work table. Hey there, welcome back to the work table. Okay, so first off, So you guys saw these books. I think I've done some junk journaling sessions a couple times here on the YouTube channel. So if you go back, so there was one last week where I did this spread and this spread. But I know I have junk journaled on this channel before. So I think if you go back a few weeks, you'll find some other junk journaling videos where I just kind of show you my process. But these are the two that I'm working in now. I usually have 2 or 3 going at one time because I love being able to flip back and forth between books. It just kind of, for me, it just keeps things fresh, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So these are the 2 I'm working in right now. Here are a couple of these are all filled up and all done, and I tried to date them on the back um, when I finish them. So I try to just at least put the month and year when they're finished. So this one got finished in December of 24. And I'm not going to do a whole flip through. I will do some flip through videos here soon, but I love um I love varying the sizes of the books. So like these little baby books are just so fun to play into because it makes you look through your little scraps carefully and find little treasures that you can put in your book. So that's one. And I think this cover was part of an old painting that got cut up. And it was on that heavy mixed media paper that I love. So it makes a good cover. I love a heavy cover. And this one is also an old painting that just, wasn't working out, but it still had lots of yummy bits on it. So I saved it. I think this is like some black tape. I can't remember why. I think I needed to reinforce that for some reason. This is from June and July of 2024. I did a lot of junk journaling. 2024 was a year that I really fell in love with junk journaling and when it really made sense for me, when I figured out how I wanted to work in a book. So this one's really, really fun. So this is just, a little bigger. This one's probably 5 by 7-ish. This one is, I don't know, maybe 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches-ish. It's not quite square, but I love playing with the different sizes. So those are a couple of books that are filled up, and then I tuck those away. Here are some that I have made that I haven't worked in yet. This one is the size of a note card because this is one of my note card designs I ordered and it was like printed wrong. Well, of course I couldn't part with them. I had to find some use for them. So I put them with my smaller scraps and turned this into a junk journal that I will use one day. There are offcuts of my own artwork, some prints that, didn't go right. There's all kinds of junk mail. We get stuff from the theater, old envelopes, you name it, all kinds of stuff. So that one's fun. This is another tall, skinny one that I really love. I love this shape. I love this shape for my art journals too. It's a fun challenge. But this is an abstract painting that just, I don't know, didn't get finished or whatever. And so I saved it and it's got some good pages. There's that Gudrun catalog. I love that. So, a lot of this is paper that will just get covered up with the stuff that I want to put in there. But it's also really fun to have like a beautiful piece of paper. That can just be a spread all by itself. Maybe even a sticker or a little something in the center and let the rest of that paper shine. I love that one. So let's see what else. This is another, this is like 8 by 6-ish. I think this was a paint. It's got a quote on there. This looks like maybe it was an old journal page that got torn up. I'm not sure. There's some splotches of paint on it. It's nice and heavy. I love that. And I've included some painted papers. This is a old print of mine that was damaged. Part of it was damaged, but I wanted to save the rest of it. This is part of an old calendar I used to have. Um, just all kinds of stuff. You know, some of it is meaningful, but a lot of it is not, because I don't want to be caught up in, preciousness with these, because they're junk journals. This is another one. I think this is an old journal page that just went awry. And I think I tore it out of the book. I love the feel of the paper. And then again, more scrappy scraps. So you kind of get the idea. These are all just like waiting for me to get started in, and I will, when I start getting towards the end of one of these, I will probably pull out another one and get going on it. I've always got at least two going at once. What's this one? See, I love an old unfinished painting as a cover. Isn't that fun? This one has less pages, but it's a smaller size. So you get the idea. This is kind of what we'll work on today, is making maybe one or two. We'll kind of see. I don't want this to be a terribly long video. I probably will speed up the work and kind of talk you through it. But I'll show you kind of what I'll be working from to make my next junk journal. So let me get my supplies together, and we'll get started on one. Okay, guys, we are ready to get started on putting together our junk journal. So I've decided I'm going to go for approximately an average piece of paper folded in half. So that's about 8.5 by 5.5-ish size. Very I am not a perfectionist when it comes to these junk journals. I just want something kind of approximate and kind of fun to work with. So let me show you what the supplies are that I'm going to use for my journal today. I've decided that this old painting is going to make a really cool cover. This is, I think, Strathmore mixed media paper. I did this painting on it a while back, and it's okay. It's all right. Um, I want to put it to use. So it's going to be my cover. It's like the perfect weight for a cover for a journal. So I've already folded it in half, but the stash I'm going to pull from is this pile. So I have basically two paper stashes, if that makes sense. Larger papers and smaller papers. So in my other stash, I have pieces that are a little more appropriate for like little books like this. Note cards, little postcards that I can fold in half, that kind of thing. So if I'm making smaller books, I have a separate stash that I pull from for those. Since this is kind of, in my view, like for me, this is a pretty big junk journal. So I'm going to pull from my bigger paper stash, and I'll just show you real quick what's in my stash. This is just an assortment of stuff that I have left over from projects. This is lined notebook paper, and there's even some colored copy paper in here. This is really interesting, you guys. I picked up a drawing pad at the thrift store, and it had a couple of little drawings in it that somebody had made with crayon and pastel. And something told me to just save it. But I just think that could be like a really fun either cover um or an insert, a page that I could partially cover. This is a printout of a digital drawing that I did. I was experimenting. These are catalog pages. I've got a lot of ephemera from just collecting over the years, children's books. I think a lot of these came in an ephemera pack that I bought maybe on Etsy. There's all kinds of scrap paper, magazine pages. I love those too for a pop of color. Different printouts of things that I love. More magazine pages. Yeah, you get the gist. It's like a hodgepodge of stuff. Um, Sometimes there's painted paper in here, sometimes not. It just kind of depends. This is a little flyer that came in our door or no, in the mail, and I was painting something and just needing to pull paper or pull paint off of a surface, and so I used this, and I kind of like how that turned out, and it looks like maybe I had thought about it for a book at some point. Um, More scrapbook paper, all kinds of stuff. This is really pretty. Fun, fun, fun. Grid paper. I love, oh, and this is fun. Isn't that fun? Oh, that'll make a cool cover for another book. And I love excuse me, I love graph paper, like grid paper. That's like one of my favorites. An old magazine, all kinds of stuff. You get the gist. I'm not sure what I'm going to use yet. We'll just kind of see how this project evolves. And then I always have a ruler on hand. I really like the metal one because I like to work fast and I like to tear down my papers with it. I like a torn edge. I have an awl. This is for poking holes through the spine of my book. Whoop, there we go. It's for so I can get the threads through to tie the book together. So an awl for poking. I usually have like clothespins or binder clips handy because when I'm trying to stitch the book together, when I'm trying to get the initial stitches in, sometimes I like to just hold everything in place with some clips. And I find that these work just as well as the binder clips. I have some waxed thread. This is specific to bookbinding, but you definitely don't need anything fancy. Any thread will do. Um, this is just something I've had forever, and I'm just trying to use it up. And then, of course, you'll want a needle that thread or cord will go through. I have a large eye needle that I use for this. Oh, and a bone folder for folding down your papers, especially if they are thick. It's kind of hard sometimes to get a real good crease. So that's what I'm going to do. So I think I'll probably speed this up a little bit and I'll show you the process of just picking out papers. You will see me pick things out, kind of fold them and tucking them and switching the order of my pages until I get a nice weight to the book. I don't make these real big. I don't do multiple signatures. I don't have a desire. I don't have the time for that. I'm just doing a single signature um, junk journal. So I'll get my papers going and you can watch me do that. And then I'll check back in again here in a little bit and I'll show you how I stitch it up and finish it up. Okay, we'll get going. Okay, pals. Hey, we're back. I've got my book put together mostly the way I think I want it. Like I said, this is a single signature book. There are all kinds of tutorials out there on making all kinds of journals. I do not claim to be an expert. I kind of don't really want to be an expert in any kind of bookbinding. It's just got to be easy, slapdash. That's what I'm after for these junk journals. So you saw me kind of pick out a bunch of papers, and then I kind of played around with placement and kind of where I wanted them. There is not really any rhyme or reason, except for me. I really like to alternate my thick and thin papers. I find that that really helps the sturdiness of the book to just sort of alternate thin papers with thicker papers. It kind of just makes it a little stronger, a little sturdier. And then I also, for my rule of thumb, is the center page, because this is where the tying is going to happen in the book. I like that to be kind of a sturdier page. This is a book page that's kind of a little thicker. It's kind of a cardstock paper, and I have found that it tears less often. It holds up a little better if you have a thicker page in the middle. But you do you, you do what you want with your journal. The other thing too is if your pages are not all the same size, which as you can see, I kind of just estimated and varied them a little bit. It's important that the smaller pages do get centered so that you can catch them in the stitching so that they're all bound in there properly. So, and you probably saw me, I tore down a few of these to make them smaller to fit. You could go absolutely wild with varying the sizes of your pages. And I do that sometimes. This time I just decided I wanted to keep it simple, but like as I go along in this book, I may cut down some of these pages just to add little tip-ins or add little add-ons to the pages. But this is feeling good to me right now. So here's what I'm going to do next. And that is, I've made sure that that small piece is centered. I've made sure everything is kind of in the fold there. And I'm going to do some clipping to hold things kind of where I want them. You don't have to be, super um, I don't know, you don't have to be too obsessed with having this perfect, but it does help you when it's time to poke the holes and all that. So I'm going to bring you in a little closer here. Hopefully you can see that okay. So I've just done the two clips on the top. That's usually enough for me to get this job done. So next step is to take your awl, and this is where I need to remind you, you've got to be very careful. I don't want to hear about you stabbing yourself in the hand or stabbing anybody else. Be very careful when you are poking holes with your awl. So I always make sure that my hand is well out of the way when I am poking any particular area in the book. So I'm going to do 3 holes. I do not measure. I know a lot of people do, and they want it to be very exact. I do not. I don't care about that. I just want 3 holes so I can do my stitching and I can move on with my life. So, first hole that I usually do, mostly out of habit, is the center hole. And if you haven't all, you just kind of poke it through and wiggle it a little, and eventually you're going to see it come out the other side. Where are you? Hello. I've got to find my, there it is. Poke, poke. It came through. So I've got my first hole. I tend to just kind of wiggle it a little so I get a nice, unmistakable space there. So that's my middle hole. And holding everything in place, you're going to move down, making sure your fingers are out of the way. And definitely don't do this on your lap, for God's sake. Stabbing your thigh or anything like that. We don't want you to be hurt. We want you to have fun with this project. Okay, and I don't know if you can see it, but I can see the tip kind of poking through, so I'm going to just wiggle it around a little and get a nice big hole. Now, this mixed media paper, it is, where the painting is, it is kind of peeling and pulling away from the paper. That's okay. I don't care about that because I'm going to end up covering this book with other stuff. So I will worry about that later. It's not important right now. So then we'll come up to the other side of that center hole and do a third hole. And this one's a little trickier because it's kind of further up the book, but you just got to have a good grip on it and you just kind of poke. I sort of push and twist. So I'm pushing it in and twisting it. Seems to be the best method for me. And then I wiggle it around, wiggle it back and forth to widen that hole. Okay, so I've got my 3 holes punched. I go back, I double check that they are all lining up, keeping your hands out of the way. That looks like it's gonna work. Okay, so we're gonna hold that there for a second and we're gonna get our needle and our thread out. Um, I think somebody said, I think there's some kind of a measurement that they go by, like 3 times the length of the book or something like that. I don't think it takes that much. I just guess. I usually have leftover. Um, Sometimes it gets a little wasted, but I'm not precise. Just go for it. So here is my needle and thread. So I think the name of this stitch is escaping me. I think it's called the pamphlet stitch. I'm not sure if that's right, but it doesn't matter. It's a three hole stitch. And so here's what it will kind of end up looking like in the end. We'll have just a tiny little knot in the middle, on the middle spread, and then you'll have 2 stitches on the outer edge of the spine there. And you could totally, flip this around and if you prefer to have the knot on the outside, that's totally cool too. Basically, I'm just going for something that will hold this book together. Okay, so we're going to start our stitching, and I like to start on the inside and go out towards the spine. So we're going to go through that middle hole, and oh my gosh, it is not lost on me, you guys. I am literally stabbing this little guy. Oh my gosh, I did not plan it that way. That is funny and sad for him. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're pulling our thread through that center hole, leaving a tail. You want to leave a tail. And then you're gonna, it doesn't really matter, top or bottom or whatever, you're gonna come through the spine. And this is where sometimes it gets a little tricky if it's not lined up. So sometimes you got to wiggle the needle around to find your way back through all of the holes. And sometimes you have to wiggle the thread a little bit. So you're going to pull it all the way through like that. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now we're on the inside of the book again. So I go all the way across to this other hole, all the way across to the other side. So now we are coming out the spine again. And I tighten it a little, but you don't need it to be super, super tight. You want it to kind of have a little bit of give, just because you don't want your papers to tear, especially if you're using like vintage papers. They are a little more fragile. So you see that I have the tail on the one side of my stitch. And so here we are on the outer spine again, and you're going to come back up through the middle, and you hope that your holes are lined up, and they are. And this poor guy, oh my gosh. You guys, I did not plan it this way. This poor guy, oh my goodness. Okay, so then we're going to pull it all kind of tight, but not super tight. And this is good enough for me. This is strong enough for me. Eventually I may cover this up with some duct tape or whatnot, but the most important part to me is that your tails end up on either side of that middle stitch, because you want to cut it and tie it in a knot. I usually do a double knot. This waxed thread really holds pretty well. So I do one knot, two knots, and if you like the tails, they're great. If you don't, you can always cut them short. Now, again, this is waxed thread, so it's gonna hold for me really well. So that's all stitched. Now let's see what we think. And that's a book pretty much done. I would probably, if I were getting kind of nitpicky, I love my pages to all be sort of tucked in there. So I would like take this gray and probably like cut it down or tear it down just to make it tuck inside the book. And you could certainly do that. And like I said, you could tear these up to your heart's content and make the pages very um, in width. That makes them interesting, being able to peek. But I will sit down and usually do like a session of bookmaking. Like if I have these supplies out, I generally will sit down and make several books at once and then just add them to my stash. So I have some that are ready to go, when it's time to grab a new book. So there you go. That is how I make my junk journals. And I apologize you had to watch this poor guy get stabbed repeatedly in the center of my book. Good Lord, that was not my intention, but I hope you enjoyed. I would love to see how you guys junk journal. Like I said, this is a recent passion of mine that I have discovered. I finally just figured out my favorite way to do it, and I just have a ball. It's such a great way to like keep your memories and find a place for all that stuff that we gather, right? Lord knows we got stuff. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining me on this video, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.